over the next 10 weeks, I went back to work and I kept doing these ridiculous hours, and I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And someone who has never put on weight, Ted, and I put on 10 kilos in that few weeks.
Oh man.
And but my rings were tight and my shoes were tight, so I was sort of didn't really know what was going on. And I found a naturopath who's still my mentor to this day, and she just totally saved my life.
Welcome to the Behind the Fitness podcast, where we interview the world's most motivating and successful fitness trainers, instructors, and coaches to inspire people to be their very best every day. Thanks for joining me today. I'm your host, Ted James. Now let's get going. Our guest today danced professionally for 12 years in Paris, Spain, the US, and on TV. She's a nutritionist, an osteopath, and naturopath doctor, specializing in the musculoskeletal system and natural healing practices. Also, she is a master bar trainer. I want to welcome Dr. Andrea Robertson, founder of the Barre Clinic. Today, we're really going to get to know Andrea and understand what women in their 30s and 40s can do when they say, everything I used to do doesn't work anymore. But before we dive into that, Andrea, can you tell us something that you believe can make you successful in health or fitness that many people might disagree with?
Oh, okay. Thanks for the intro, Ted. It's lovely. Really, I don't know that everyone would necessarily disagree with this, but I think the thing that makes you successful in fitness or any part of your life is just putting in the work and putting in the effort. So some people think that they can get there by being an overnight success in their own fitness or perhaps in a fitness business. But really it's about the hard work, putting in 100% of the effort, and then you get 100% of the results.
Absolutely. There are no shortcuts. Everybody wants that quick diet or that 5-minute workout that's going to give you abs next week.
Yes. And there is none of that.
Yes.
I really like the philosophy of just one small step at a time, and it compounds positively over a long time. If you go to the gym tomorrow and you don't get the body you want in 3 days, a lot of people give up. But if you persistently do that little bit every day with nutrition or with fitness or with mindset, then over time that compounds in a positive way. So it's really about just chipping away and putting in the effort, no matter if it's fitness business or your own health and fitness.
Absolutely. Well, can you give us a little bit more background on yourself, and then tell us what drove you to find your love for dance when you were young? And then how did that progress to your journey with being a professional dancer that took you all over the world?
Okay, yeah, it's quite an interesting story. So I guess my background is I have been a dancer since I was 3 years old, and I still dance now at the age of 45. So it's been a long time, but my professional career was sort of from age 18 to about 32. And
okay.
As well as that, I'm an osteopath, naturopath, and nutritionist. So I've been at university for about 10 years in there as well. But my dancing love started, and I still have a really early memory of when I must have been quite young. Maybe it was before I started classes, so I must have been maybe 2 or 3. And I remember seeing Swan Lake, a beautiful ballet on television one Christmas evening, and saying to my family, what's that? And actually, I was with another. We're at a family function, and this older girl. I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Oh, that's ballet." But I heard it as belly. So I went to Mum the next, week or whatever, and said, "I want to do belly." So I'm very lucky she didn't put me in belly dancing classes. But the next year on Christmas Eve, ballet came on the television again. It's always a thing in Australia. There's always a ballet on Christmas Eve on the television. And I said to Mum, look, there's belly. And she was like, oh, okay, so for a year you've been asking to do ballet. So the next year she started me in ballet. None of our family has any creativity or musicality or dance background at all. So it was nothing through our family. It was just me seeing this thing and wanting to do it.
Okay.
And so I started ballet and was really worked at a very high level with ballet right through until I was 18. I wanted to become a professional ballet dancer, but I'm quite tall, so I grew too tall for that career. And I
Oh,
also had this sliding doors moment. So my parents are really sensible and they know that the dance career is a really tricky thing, and especially because I had my height disadvantage for ballet against me. And so they wanted me to go to university. And so to do that, you have to finish year 12. That's our final year of high school in Australia. And so I finished my final school exams, and I had an audition for the Australian Ballet School the next, 2 days later. And so I'm from the country, regional Australia, and my parents drove me down to the capital city of Melbourne, and I was doing some ballet class with another teacher the night before my audition. And I'd already had spoken to the head of the school, and she said, we're really happy to take you into the school, but you'll never dance as a professional dancer in Australia. You're too tall, but, we'll give you this opportunity. But I had to go through the process of the audition. And I was doing ballet class the night before, and I did this little exercise. It's a tiny little kind of sideways jump and a hop thing called a glissade jeté, and rolled my ankle, and I broke a little bone in my foot. So I didn't get to go to the audition, obviously. It wasn't a bad break. It was only kind of 3 weeks on, not walking. And but it was enough for me not to go to the audition the next day. And so that was that sliding doors moment. And I went to university instead, straight out of year 12. And didn't think that I would be having a career in dance, because I didn't know of any other style of dance other than ballet. It was really my single pointed focus.
okay.
And so I started studying osteopathy, and when I was living then in the capital city in Melbourne, I heard about this other world of dance, and we call it the commercial dance scene. So it's what you would kind of know of film clips and corporate events and sporting events with cheerleaders and all that kind of thing. So I went off to an audition to become a cheerleader for the national basketball team we have here in Melbourne, and got the job. And so that opened up a whole new world of dance to me.
Oh, sure.
And so all the way through university, my job then was dancing in different events, and had an agency and did some modeling stuff, and, all of that kind of thing that tied in together. And then I had 6 years of university as an osteopath, to become an osteopath. And then I remember somebody saying to me in one of my dancing jobs, you should audition for the Moulin Rouge in Paris. And I had never heard of that as well. And it was right around the time, 2000, I think, year 2000, that the Moulin Rouge movie came out. And so all of a sudden there was this huge big hype around it. And they came out to Australia and auditioned a whole, 800 girls in Australia.
Oh.
And I got the job.
Nice.
So I was already a qualified osteopath, and I went off to Paris and started dancing at the Moulin Rouge. Yeah, and it was an amazing experience. And that kind of started off, I did 2 years in Paris and a year in Spain in a big show called Sonoma. And then I went to the States and worked on cruise ships, came back to Australia and still danced professionally there for quite a number of years in Sydney, and all the time doing osteopathy on the side. So that's kind of how it all started and combined all the way through.
Okay. Very interesting. I didn't know there was a height limit to dance or ballet, really. Why does that matter, how tall you are?
Well, you see, I'm nearly 6 foot. I'm 5'11".
Okay.
And I have big feet.
Okay.
So when I stand up, ballerinas stand on their toes.
Yeah.
And if I stand on my toes, then I'm nearly 7 foot. And so the guys have to be taller than you, and there's not that many 7 foot dancers around.
Oh.
And plus, when you're taller, you're heavier, and guys, have to lift you and do all that stuff in ballet. So the smaller and more petite you are, the easier that is. Yeah.
All right. So it really wasn't your fault. It's just the guy's fault.
We could say that. If we had taller men in dancing, then maybe I would have been a ballerina.
Yes. You just need more taller, stronger guys in dancing. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty awesome story that you got to go all over and do that with dance. That doesn't seem like an opportunity that a lot of people have, really.
No, and gosh, even now with COVID, it really makes me so sad, because if I was, 22 and 23 now, wanting to go off and do that around the world, we wouldn't have that opportunity anymore, because our borders in Australia are so strictly closed.
Right.
And I feel really sad for the people of that age group now that would have been in that, trying to start off a dance career. We don't have a lot of that kind of work in Australia, so you really do have to go to Europe or America for that. So, yeah, I'm very grateful that that happened and gave me the opportunities I had. And so many of my best friends are from my dance world, and just has given me friends all over the world. So anytime I go traveling, there's always someone I can visit, usually wherever I go. It's amazing.
That is too bad that those opportunities aren't there right now for other people. Hopefully soon we will see.
Yeah,
Well,
fingers crossed, because I just feel really sad about it for so many people and what they're missing out on.
Right. Well, I know you said that you practiced osteopath. You were osteopath for all through college and all through your dance career. Can you tell us what that is exactly and what you did?
Yeah, sure. So an osteopath is a hands-on manual therapist. So people come to me for like back pain or neck pain or all sorts of other stuff beyond that as well. But it's a manual therapy, so people come in and I take a full medical history and chat to them about their problems and work out a diagnosis by using osteopathic and orthopedic testing, and then give them a manual hands-on treatment. So it's a little bit like in America, physiotherapists are called, I think, physical therapists in America.
Yes.
It's a little bit similar to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That I definitely understand that part. You're also a naturopath doctor. What does that exactly? Can you explain to us what that is?
Yeah, so I studied that after osteopathy because I have a really big interest in the organs of our body and how it can affect our musculoskeletal system through a technique that I love doing called visceral osteopathy or visceral manipulation. And that led me into wanting to know more about the biochemistry and the physiology of the body. And so naturopathic medicine is really beyond, it's not the musculoskeletal system, but it's in the whole system, and it's treating people with natural medicine. So diet changes and supplements or herbal medicine. Okay.
Just kind of staying away from the pharmaceutical drugs and working with natural remedies. Okay.
100%.
And you're also a nutritionist. So it seems like you went through quite a bit of school in your life.
Yeah, I studied for 10 years.
Yeah, right. How does that work with all your other schooling, being a nutritionist?
Yeah, I just combine it with everything I do. Like, I think the three professions of osteopathy, naturopathy, and nutrition just fit so beautifully together.
Okay.
And like in my clinical situation, if I'm treating a patient hands-on for osteopathy, I can talk to them about their diet. Then if there's any blood tests I want to do, I can request pathology and then help them with some supplements. But I also see, I see some patients for osteopathy and naturopathy together, but some for just naturopathy and some for just osteopathy and some for just nutrition. So people can kind of pick and choose really what they want to do with me. But I've combined all of my sort of 21, 22 years of experience now into some online programs. So that's where my interests are at the minute and where I'm really excited, because I can use everything that I know, like injury management and physical management and exercise and fitness, as well as the nutrition and functional medicine support through the naturopathy.
Oh, that's got to be extremely helpful to people. What does a program like that kind of look like? Could you give us like a real quick breakdown of what that progression looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm running at the moment a 12-week program for women aged over 35. It's a really scientific kind of background, and it helps them lose weight and keep it off and give them body confidence and the ability to fit back into their clothes again. So this 12-week program runs with 3 aspects of mindset, movement, and nutrition. And so I work closely with each client with a one-on-one appointment, like I would in a clinical situation, with their nutrition and naturopathy and full medical history. And like I delve right into all their body systems and all their different systemic medicine in their body and different symptoms and signs, and then really help them and teach them to learn how to read and understand their body for inflammatory reactions. Okay. So that's kind of the nutrition part of it. And if I need to do any supplement support with them, I can offer them that as well. And then we have a fitness program that goes along with it. And it's really about moving the body every day, because some people can't necessarily do what other people can do fitness-wise if they're managing a hip replacement or fibromyalgia or different conditions like that. And so I have this whole kind of fitness program that they can either choose to do online classes with me, or we do a weekly yoga together online, or they might, discuss other options for fitness and movement that they can do.
So I know you work with a lot of women, you said, in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. What do you do to help these women with nutrition and movement when they tell you everything I used to do just doesn't work anymore?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Ted. Like in our 40s and the perimenopause years and into 50s and 60s, the body's going through so many changes. And so I'm really big on education, and I really truly believe knowledge is power. So I try and empower these women with the knowledge of what's actually changing in their bodies, and then teach them how to manage that, because it's so true. So many of the women come to me and say, like, exactly what you said, what I used to do doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so, and I felt that too, like the body changes, and I teach them about what's happening with progesterone and estrogen and why that's changing. And there's also such a huge increased prevalence of autoimmune diseases that happen as the body's going through these changes. So just teaching women how to do that. And then a really big thing I love to teach them is how to listen to their bodies for inflammation and how to understand what's happening. So I know that I could say to these women, like, this is what you're going to do for 12 weeks. Like, you're going to do this and this and this and this and this. And at the end of the 12 weeks, they've got no knowledge. They would have ended up with the same physical outcome, but they wouldn't have had that knowledge and power to be able to maintain that themselves afterwards and understand why they're doing that for their own bodies. So that's really the biggest thing, to just teach them to understand their own bodies and teach them to find the answers for themselves, rather than me just handing the answers to them on a platter.
Okay.
Which is the same end result, but very different journey and very different mindset for them to finish the program with me at the end.
Yes. They know why they're doing what they're doing instead of just going through the movements.
And they know why they're doing it for them, because what's right for them is not right for the other person next to them and the other person next to them as well. Okay.
So it's just a lot learning about how to listen to your body. I know you said that about inflammation, but is it everything else? Like, I feel this way today. This is why it's happening, most likely. Is that kind of what you help them out with also?
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Okay. So, inflammation is a massive thing, and it's a contributor to most of the chronic diseases out there today. Like, if you're inflamed and got systemic inflammation or chronic inflammation, that's kind of like whole body low grade inflammation, as opposed to, roll your ankle, which we call acute inflammation. But this whole body systemic inflammation doesn't mean you're going to develop chronic diseases, but all the chronic diseases are linked with chronic inflammation. So my whole principle of life is living a healthier life for longer. And I want to teach other people how to live a healthier life for longer. Like, there's no point being 90, bedridden, unwell, and sick if you can't do anything.
Right.
And just being kept alive through, pharmaceuticals and in bed. Wouldn't it be much better to be 90 and be active and walking and fit and healthy? So it's really about longevity. And if people can understand in our 40s, especially in 50s, how to read your body for inflammation and pull that down, like, it's just going to give us so much of a better chance to reduce incidence of Alzheimer's, reduce incidence of dementia and heart disease and cancer, like really reduce all of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's the main goal, I think, to figure out. Yeah. What are a few things that examples that you see over and over of causes of this chronic inflammation all over your body?
Yeah. Stress, big time. Eating food that's not real. So I always say, our number one week one lesson is to eat real food. So I teach people how to get the packet of the ingredients and actually understand what you're eating in a packet food. And, is that ingredient list, is it a real food, or is it a fake food and a chemical kind of manufactured food? And so that's mind-blowing for so many people. And in Australia, I know it's not the same in the States, but they always pop the food, like the fake food, as a number. So in Australia, I say no numbers, but I know I've seen lots of the packets in the States and they put the whole chemical kind of name down. So for my clients in the States, I say, just make sure you understand what every ingredient is. And if it sounds like it's a chemical or man-made, it is, and it's not something to eat. Like, you want to only eat real food. It's really the number one thing. I think food is definitely your medicine.
Yes. Yeah. They usually do put out the full names in the US here. And usually you read those and you no idea what it is. So, and it's a lot of it's marketed as healthy foods to eat. Here's a quick healthy snack. Yeah. But it's just packed full of chemicals and preservatives.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And it just contributes to inflammation big time. So if we can, I'm not big on counting macros or counting calories, but I'm very big on eating real food. And if you eat just real food and get rid of that chemical kind of fake food, the body won't be in a state of inflammation. It will find the weight that it wants to be naturally. So people will always lose weight if they reduce inflammation in their body. But you don't have to, count calories and macros and every day, weigh food. It's not about that. It's just about just eat real food. But honestly, Ted, so many people don't know this. And so many people just, because of the marketing, that's healthy. It says it's a health food on the front. And when they start to learn how to read packets, it's huge.
And that's probably so much easier and less laborsome than counting macros every day and counting exact calories. So, and I think that's one of the biggest goals, is to make it simple, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 100%. And so, the first time you go to the supermarket, it takes forever because you've got to stand there and read the packets of everything. But once my clients find the brand that they know they can have, over time, it doesn't take long to go shopping and get the ones that they like. Or just, in Australia, all our fruits and vegetables are on the outer edges of the supermarket. I don't know what it's like over there, but so I say to people, just eat from around the edges. Don't go in the middle aisles.
From around the edges. All right. Yeah. And actually, so me and my wife are in our late 30s right now. And I was telling her that I was going to be talking to you about these things today. And so it definitely kind of hit home and made me realize, all right, we're going to possibly be moving on to a new stage in our life, physically. So I was very interested to talk to you today about all of this.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for her, she's going through a lot more changes than you are.
Right. Yes.
5 years, with her hormone and her metabolism. But then your metabolism is going to change a little bit too in the next 10 years.
I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, that's all right. I'll be there to support. So as much as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you able to use your medical practice and all of the knowledge that you have with medicine and your bar training together as a bar trainer to help people out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the bar side of it has been another whole story. So when I stopped dancing professionally, a friend of mine who I used to dance with in the Moulin Rouge discovered bar workouts in the States, and she brought that back to Australia. And through a lot of her old Moulin Rouge friends network, we all started bar studios in Australia as kind of the first group of people doing this. And so I've had my own bar studio for 12 years as well, which is actually upstairs from my clinic. They're in the same building.
Okay.
And so I've been able to combine the both really well. I'll go in and teach a class at 6 a.m. and I'll take my work clothes and I'll get changed at work and have breakfast there and then start seeing patients. And that's how I've combined kind of the two things I love, which is dance and movement, as well as helping people with their health.
Very nice.
And then in my programs, that's really bringing all of that together, because the online workouts I provide for the ladies in my programs are bar, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So bar and yoga and weight-based training, which is also super important for women in their 40s to be doing some weights.
Okay.
So I combine all of that into that. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is where I give bar workouts for people to do on YouTube. And that's been really fun doing that, filming those. And then I also have another online program, which I teach people all over the world how to become bar instructors.
Oh.
So I feel like my whole life is just a combination. I don't have to do just one thing all the time. It's a combination of all the things that I love.
Yes.
And I've been one of these lucky people to be able to make money from the things I love. And my hobbies, like, dancing and yoga have become my revenue streams. And so I'm one of these people that, what's the expression? Like, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
Yes.
Even though I do 16-hour days most days.
I'm sure it's a grind some days, but that is great that you get to love the work that you do. Can you tell us the names of those programs, each one? The training program for teachers and the other just regular bar training?
Yeah, the training program for teachers is just called the Barre Clinic Teacher Training Program.
Okay.
And then my app and online program is called the Barre Clinic TV. And my YouTube channel, I just changed the name recently, actually. I had it under Bar with Andrea, but I've changed it to Andrea Robertson because I want to be able to put more nutrition and health tips and stuff onto the YouTube channel, as well as the bar workouts. So I'm just making that a bit more all-encompassing of everything that I love.
Oh, okay.
And then, just on my website, andrearobertson.health is where all of that information is about my 12-week program as well. Do you know my 12-week program, Ted, doesn't have a name. It's just called my 12-week program. So it's very, very unsexy, but it works.
Hey, people understand. It's better to be clear sometimes.
Yeah.
No, and that's great that you are also providing more of the nutrition information and all of that other knowledge that you've had from your 10 years of school to add on to your bar programs. So I'm sure people appreciate that. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I know that they do.
Well, now I want to dive in a little bit more to know you personally. So would you be able to tell us a moment in your life where you were at your lowest, and how did you overcome it, and what did you learn from being in that place?
Yeah. Okay. So there's one moment that there's probably two moments that jump to mind.
Okay.
But the first one was when I was in my early 30s, still dancing professionally. I was living in Sydney, and I was working as an osteopath 3 days a week and then dancing in shows 6 nights a week. And I went through this phase where there was a lot of other osteopaths locally that knew that I wasn't working full-time every day with osteo, and they would ask me often to cover their clinics and do locum work for them. So I was in this little phase of my life where it was 12 weeks where I was working full-time osteopath during the day and seeing 80 patients a week, which is a lot.
Yeah, sounds like
50
it.
patients is a lot, but 80 is a lot because we have sort of half an hour appointments with each patient. And then dancing 6 nights a week. And on week 10, Ted, I was sitting in my clinic treating a patient, and my vision started to cloud over from the sides, like curtains coming across. And then my body had a seizure down the right-hand side. It's all very dramatic. And no. I remember leaving, I just walked out of the treatment room because I couldn't talk. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just left my patient there. So not what I would do in an ideal situation, but I went out to my receptionist and just said, something's wrong with me. And she could see it, and she said it is. So she got the patient to stay in the building. I think it was like at the end of the day, and there was only the three of us there. And she walked me across the road to our doctor's office across the road, and they sent me straight to hospital. I had all these tests, and I think they thought I had a brain tumor or something bizarre, and nothing showed up.
Okay.
But then so I was sent home with a diagnosis of a migraine without a headache. And over the next 10 weeks, I went back to work, and I kept doing these ridiculous hours, and I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And someone who has never put on weight, Ted, and I put on 10 kilos in that few weeks.
Oh my.
And but my like rings were tight and my shoes were tight. So it was sort of like, I didn't really know what was going on. And I found a naturopath who's still my mentor to this day. And she just totally saved my life. And that's how I really started studying naturopathy after that.
Wow.
But within 2 days, I'd sat on the toilet and I'd peed out 7 kilos. It was all inflammation and fluid retention. And then by the end of the week, the whole 10 kilos was gone. So
that is wild.
She just said to me, like, it's wild. She said my whole body had shut down. All my elimination systems weren't working. It all made sense to her. And it was the first person that had said, you know, that it actually makes sense, because you feel like you're going mad when everyone says, oh, it's just a migraine. But you know, there's something bigger than that.
Right. Yeah,
and
that's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was really scary. And so I was really, really unwell. I look back at photos of myself from that time and I just look grey, you know, when you look at this, there's no colour in my face. And I would say I got really much better in sort of a couple of weeks, but then it was really the last 30% that took another 8 or 9 years. And it was only when I really studied naturopathy and nutrition and got rid of what I was talking about with you before, all those chemicals and preservatives and additives out of my diet, that I felt 100% right. And I still have to be quite strict with what I eat. Like, I don't eat gluten and I very rarely eat dairy, and that keeps the inflammation down in my body, but my body's very sensitive to inflammation. Okay. And the second part, Ted, that I was going to tell you about was in my late 30s, I went through IVF. And sadly, it didn't work. So, but it just put my body right back into a big inflammatory state again. Oh. And so it was another kind of bout of what I had in my early 30s. But I feel like it took me about 5 years to recover from all those IVF medications, and probably the emotional trauma and everything as well with it. So, yeah, there you go. There's 2 big things, and I've healed both of those with really just eating well and having a good mindset and exercising regularly and just really looking after my body and keeping inflammation down.
That's 5 years is a long time to recover from really anything, but it's good that you had the knowledge that you do and understanding of, I have to keep on doing this to get where I want to be. Yeah,
definitely.
Wow. Yeah, did it really come down to basically stress is what put you over the edge?
I didn't feel stressed in my head, but I think it was all stress on my body. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like I was like, I'm so stressed. I think it was just the busyness and the pushing. Like, I'm pretty good at pushing myself pretty hard. But I think then my body just gave up at that point in my early 30s anyway. It was just too much for too long.
And with like no recovery time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow. That had to be terrifying, going to the doctor and thinking they're going to do a scan and find out exactly what it is. And all of a sudden it comes back, nothing. Nope. Sorry. Go home.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, I just actually remember being in the hospital. And I remember thinking they're not going to find something. Like, I don't know why I had this inherent gut instinct that they wouldn't find anything, but I knew something was wrong with me. Yeah, so it was weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that you were able to figure it out and become educated and now be able to help other people probably in that same position.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully no one has to be as dramatic as I was. We try and catch it before they get to that point.
Yes, prevention. Well, what would you say your personal philosophy is?
So my personal philosophy is really about living a healthier life for longer, which is what I was kind of talking about earlier. And that's really, I want to be somebody that is active and active aging as I get older, and, really enjoy my years after I retire, perhaps into my 70s and 80s, as opposed to being unwell and not having a very enjoyable life in those years. So that's what I want for my clients as well. And it's all about teaching them to have the healthier life for longer and not, reducing the incidence of all those chronic diseases, the heart disease and cancer and autoimmune diseases and Alzheimer and dementia. And I think, there's another personal element in that too for me, Ted, is my mum's a breast cancer survivor twice over.
Okay.
And I've seen her go through all of this, and she has lots of complications in her health these days from the really intense chemotherapy program that she was on in those early days. And she's really well, like she's, 72 and she's doing really well, but it's affected her a lot. And I don't really want to get cancer. Well, none of us do. No. But I feel if I look after my health as best as I can and, feed it with good nutrition and stay a healthy weight and do regular exercise, that I'm giving my body the best chance to not have that situation happen. Yes,
agreed. I actually went through, when I was younger, a couple of years of chemotherapy, and it can screw up so many things. I mean, they're really just pumping poison into you in a certain way to try to kill off cancer. So, yeah. And I'm sure your mom benefited greatly from somebody with so many years of knowledge to help her in different directions. Be like, all right, we can try this, even though you're having a side effect from chemo, to try to remedy that.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. She's alive, and so we're so grateful that she had the chemo. And probably the same for you, Ted. Like, you're here and really healthy and well, and so we're really grateful for that, obviously. But it's nice to see if we can prevent that before it gets there for ourselves and for our clients.
Yes, that's another driver for me to try to be healthy and eat right and exercise and just have a healthy lifestyle, is to not get that back ever again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, this last question is the save the world question. If you were able to pick only one short message sent completely anonymous to every person in the world, and they would really listen and take it to heart, what would that one message be?
I had to think about this because you've given me a heads up on this question already, Ted.
Yeah.
And I feel like my message is really important for Western cultures, but perhaps not so much for third world cultures, if that's all right. But it's just eat real food. So staying away from the chemicals. And I know that's not everyone has that opportunity in every culture in our world to choose. But for those of us who have the choice, is to just eat real food.
Yes, that's huge. I think that could change so many things in your life. Like you said earlier, your food is, let the food be the medicine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well,
100%.
Can you share with us how we can connect with you? And then we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you. Sure. So Instagram under Dr.Andrea Robertson. So Dr.Andrea Robertson. I have a free Facebook group that I'm really happy to invite anyone to come along to. And that's really focused on women over 35 as well. And that's called The Whole Health Solution with Andrea Robertson. So you just search for that and I'll add you in. My website is andrearobertson.health. And my YouTube channel is Andrea Robertson.
All right. Well, and after the show, head over to behindthefitness.com. You'll find links to each episode, links to connect with Andrea, and more. Also, definitely be sure to check out Andrea's science-backed 12-week program for movement, mindset, and nutrition to lose weight and keep it off. Andrea, thank you again for spending time with us and letting us get to know you better. It was truly powerful.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks so much for the invitation to come on the program.